So the concept of using animals as a part of one's spirituality and mysticism is very shamanic. And for guidance on the means of incorporating sacred animals of the Druid tradition, we often look to the shamanic traditions that we can observe for their advice on such matters. Given that we do not have a modern version of Druidry per se that's been untainted and openly empirically observable on which to base such a thing. Shamans see animals as helpers, power animals, familiars, even messengers, messenger spirits of the earth and sky deities. There's a lot of misconceptions concerning the idea of shaman shape-shifting, although metaphysics views polymorphing as, theoretically possible. We don't necessarily mean that a magic user is assuming the complete physical form of an animal when we speak of their ability to shape-shift. Shape-shifting for shamanic purposes is like the assimilation of attributes held by a sacred power animal after observing that animal, whether in nature, working with the animal in the astral, the spirit of the animal in the astral plane. Oftentimes the traits and attributes emerge as a result of one's interpretation of the metaphysical symbolism that a given animal represents. All animals in nature are at one with the green world. They are already equalized and at one with the green world. This is why animals become potential allies in this part of the Druid's quest. Each of the variety of animals has their own strengths, weaknesses, which usually differ from one another, just as, trees will attract and vibrate different energies based on their species, so will animals. And relationships can be formed with animals as a means of better understanding and assimilating these energies. Oftentimes, a sacred animal comes to be so because of maybe the emergence of it in a dream or an astral work. The symbolism of the animal may represent where the druid is at that point on their path, or else where they need to be, or else a symbol of their life path as a whole. Druids hold the belief that a wise one is naturally drawn towards certain animals because of the lessons that they have for us. And so each of us likewise has a different lesson to learn. Different animal energies are going to be necessary as far as to achieve what we have to learn from nature and the cosmos. And what these animals that we identify with, what they have to say about ourselves. On top of that, power animals are basically those animals that the shaman has identified with and is working or has worked with. The power animal is usually physical, though it can also include those that are psychological or generally referred to as mythological. And all animals with traits that the shaman desires almost become personal power animals that they identify with and therefore assimilate the attributes of. And you can have many power animals during your mystical work. Totem animals go a little bit farther. A shaman might have a totem that has been handed down through the generations ancestral. For example, a power animal that is sacred to an entire tribe, clan, or family can become a totem animal. Totems are especially powerful cultural icons and help that they help in distinguishing the nature of, for example, the bear people versus the wolf people, clans that have been identified by such. Even if the chosen totem has little to do with what is reflected, at least we have a means of classifying the two groups, and I think that's what it was about, was separating, causing that designation of separations. Familiars are probably one of the most personal manifestations of power animals, and they are oftentimes kept as pets that have a physical and mystical link with their masters. And there's been many stories about legendary relationships that animals have said to have with their human companions, and magic that pertains to a power animal, particularly one that's familiar, like healing or communication, is in some schools called brown magic. And familiars can be invited into rituals, and they don't seem to disrupt the nematonal circle, the caste circle. In the medieval accounts of like the life of Merlin, one example being the Vita Merlini, literally the life of Merlin. Merlin the Druid is depicted as the lord of the animals. He demonstrates proper power and authority over like the stag, which is a very sacred animal to the Druids, the deer. In his prophecies, Merlin even speaks of the reversible or inversion of the natural order, in which the beasts of England and Albion will band together and rise up against men.
Hello? I'll call you back. I